National Results Operations Center once more, and thank you for the wall-to-wall coverage on electoral processes and bringing all the issues to the IEC. Without much ado, I'm going to bring forth the Chief Electoral Officer, Ntate Mosotho Moepya, to give South Africans an update of where we are in terms of special voting. Sir?
Thank you, Kate. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The Electoral Commission is on track to complete special voting through home visits and at voting stations by 1700 hours today. Despite a record number of special vote applications, election officials reported that between 50% and 70% of home visits had been completed yesterday, with the remaining visits underway from early today already. At voting stations, turnout for special votes varied considerably. Some voting stations had already closed yesterday after all approved special votes had already been cast. Other voting stations reported a low turnout of voters on day one. Voting stations where voters had been granted applications for special votes and have not yet cast them will remain open until 1700 hours today. Thereafter, any voters who had not been able to cast their vote may still vote at their voting station on election day tomorrow. The first 2 days of special voting have provided the Electoral Commission with a special opportunity to fine-tune its operations and to deal with any processes and logistical issues that may have been experienced. Among the challenges encountered yesterday included isolated cases of election officials not following the correct procedure for special votes. This included not using double envelope systems and 3 reported cases of voters who had not applied for special votes but were granted permission to vote. In all these instances, the affected ballots have been quarantined, and the Commission will, after consultation with the National Party Liaison Committee, determine a way forward. In voting stations where procedures were not followed, the presiding officers and deputy presiding officers have been issued with warnings. In 2 cases where behavior of the presiding officers and deputy presiding officers were believed to be more serious breaches, including allowing voters who had not been granted special votes to vote and failing to secure the ballot boxes, they have been summarily dismissed. The Electoral Commission is also saddened to announce the death of a presiding officer who died in the Eastern Cape last night. He had not been on duty yesterday due to ill health. The Electoral Commission expresses its condolences to the family of Mr. Thanduxolo Ndamase. Other challenges included damage to tents from high winds. 2 election officials were slightly injured when the tent used as a voting station was blown over in KwaDuguza in KwaZulu-Natal. A tent used as a voting station in Belfast, Mpumalanga, was also blown over. There have been a number of similar instances reported sporadically. Heavy rains also disrupted special voting in Elliotdale in the Eastern Cape yesterday, but the weather was reported to be clear today, and it was hoped voting would proceed as normal. 2 tents were burned in an overnight apparent arson attack by disgruntled residents in Freedom Park in Ekurhuleni, Gauteng. These tents have been replaced today, and extra security has been arranged. The Electoral Commission condemns any disruptions of the election and is working closely with the South African Police Service to protect the voting process and investigate criminal acts and other violations of the Electoral Code of Conduct. Statements made yesterday on fake new websites which claimed people had been arrested with large quantities of ballot papers already marked for a specific party were hoax, and we wish to draw your attention to the fact that there have not been such arrests and there have not been any loss of ballot papers. Despite the photograph of the marked ballot clearly being a national ballot paper used in the 2014 national and provincial elections, this destructive story spread virally and was also picked up by some media organizations who raised these matters with us. The Electoral Commission reminds all voters and the media that it is an offense in terms of Section 69 of the Local Government Municipal Electoral Act for anyone to make intentionally false statements with the intention of disrupting or influencing an election. A case has been opened with the South African Police Service to investigate the source of these false reports and for referral to the prosecutorial authorities where these matters are concerned. The Electoral Commission advises all voters and stakeholders to be vigilant against mischievous and illegal attempts to mislead and misguide voters. The Electoral Commission remains open to all those voters that will be presenting themselves at our voting stations until 1700 hours today. We are also visiting those voters that we had planned to visit today, and we will complete the work we had set out to do. We thank you very much and good afternoon.
Thank you so much, CEO. Let me open the floor for questions on developments from your statement and allow the IEC panel to deal with some of those issues. I've got a question here on this side. Let me start here, Faith.
Hi, Faith Daniels from Kagiso Media. Is there any update on procedures in Buwani and the special votes there?
Okay.
As the posterman from SABC TV News, if you can
Please just take your mic a little bit up. Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. If you can just please be more specific on the warnings issued and the dismissals. Do you have a number of how many officials are we talking about that have been dismissed and been issued with warnings? And earlier today we had a briefing by the EFF which said that certain complaints by parties to IEC are not taken seriously and are not investigated with urgency. If you can just respond to those allegations made by the EFF earlier. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Yvonne from Love News. I just want to expatiate on the EFF press briefing that we had earlier. Julius Malema mentioned that there are some party agents that are being bought out allegedly by the ruling party. I also wanted you to just respond to those remarks, if there are any confirmed reports on that.
Helen, can you please take your mic a little bit up?
Okay. Is this better? Yes. Okay. I was saying I'm Yvonne from Love News. I just wanted to add on to the EFF comments earlier. Julius did mention that there are some party agents that are being bought out allegedly by the ruling party. So my question to you is, can you confirm those reports? What is your comment with regards to that? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let me take one more question before I allow the IC panel to provide responses.
Good afternoon, Anton Meyer from Pretoria FM. You said yesterday that you received 28 complaints at national level related to the violations of the Electoral Code of Conduct. Have you received any more complaints, and have you also resolved I think it was 7 cases that you still had to resolve yesterday. Have you resolved any of them? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me allow the CEO and commissioners to deal with some of the issues. CO an update on Vuani special votes and where we are in that regard.
Any update on Vuani? They are voting. We have reports that work is proceeding in that in Vuani. We should be able to have a detailed report later in the day today. But I do assume that there are many reporters out in Vuani who are seeing this. I did indicate yesterday that there were 32 people that we were seeing in that area, and you'll accept that in many of those instances we would have finished with them slightly early, or we are about to finish with this work. There was a question about how many officials? Okay. I don't have a count for you straight away, but we can provide you the count of officials that we have had to release from duty in the day-to-day. My colleagues will make that. I think what we are communicating to you is that where we find that there are violations or even violations to the code of conduct that our staff member has signed up to, we will with no doubt let that person go. There are a number of those instances where this has happened, and we have allowed them to go. But we'll give you the exact details. I'm not carrying them with me right now. There are allegations that there are certain allegations we have not investigated. That's what I understand. We have investigated every one of the complaints that have been forwarded to us. I have indicated yesterday that certain of these complaints are in fact undergoing an investigation, and some are fairly simple, others are very difficult, and we are dealing with those investigations. None of them has been left unanswered, and we have informed the political parties or the individuals that have raised those complaints about the progress that we have made. So the complainants are fairly well briefed about where we are. The allegation of party agents brought out by a party or someone, I think it's important that we explain that party agents are in fact authorized by a party, and they are given a letter, and we verify that letter. There is no, and in any instance, there are two party agents that are allowed. I don't understand when we say there are party agents being brought out, they would have been accredited by a party, and we would have confirmed. So there's nothing sinister about that, where they have been. And in any event, we would not have a party, giving us more than the requisite number of party agents at any station. I don't know if that clarifies your question. Any party is entitled to two party agents. They will have a letter of authority from that party, which we as the Electoral Commission will satisfy ourselves with, that they are indeed approved by that specific political party. The issue of complaints, I think I have indicated that every one of them we deal with. Today has been a fairly a busy morning. There may be a number of updates, to complaints that we heard. But as said last night, there were two more complaints that we had received that brings the number to 30. I know that my colleagues have issues that they have resolved that we need to deal with them, but we will be dealing with them hereafter. We will give you an update fairly early tomorrow or later today, depending on how far we go. But every one of these matters is indeed receiving our attention. Have you resolved any remaining ones? Yes, indeed. There are a number that we must finalize. Today, as I've indicated, that some of those investigations would have been completed, but we will be dealing with them hereafter. I imagine I've dealt with the questions that you had raised.
I just want to allow the chairperson of the IEC to make some additions to some of the issues that were raised.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I think the question that relates to allegations of party agents being bought not to remain in the voting stations is an allegation. We as the Commission, we will await any evidence and matters and complaints to be forwarded. As a matter of policy and principles, we don't respond to statements of political party leaders or political parties through the media. So we note the question, but as a principle, what we're pointing out is that if there is any proof or any evidence, we will attend to it. But by and large, we believe that the party agents will adhere to what they are required to do by the Code of Conduct. Thank you.
Indeed, Chairperson, that is the expectation, and that is what political party leaders and independent candidates contesting these elections are clearly and are aware of. Let me take, if there are any other questions or no more questions, I'll be bringing this briefing to an end. I'm seeing a question on my left, two of them actually, if I can have the mic. Thanks, Itumeleng. Proceed that.
Turnout from SABC again. You mentioned that despite a record number of special vote applications, that turnout at voting station was, it varied considerably. So if you can just sum it up for us, how would you sum up yesterday's turnout? Are you satisfied? Are you disappointed with the actual turnout? If you can just give us an indication how you feel about the turnout. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's take the second question.
My question is on the statement that the CEO made yesterday that with the special voting, it will also assist just to observe any issues that might arise prior to tomorrow. So are you guys satisfied, and are you ready for the 3rd of August?
I'm going to peg your question. I'm going to come back to you later this evening around 6 o'clock when we share with South Africa, including journalists in the center, in terms of state of readiness for tomorrow. At that point in time, we'll see how we're doing. Thank you very much. Let me take one more question before I close and wrap up this afternoon's press briefing. Looks like we are covered, CEO. Only one more question on your process for tomorrow, for this afternoon. How are you? What's your turnout? Happy or not? Let's hear it.
We are satisfied with our voting stations. We accept one thing, that voters apply for special votes knowing when they will be coming to the voting stations. We create an environment for them to come in. There are stations that have reported that they have done, almost completed all of the special vote applications they had for the visits at the voting stations, and therefore they are closed. We have said so. But there are other stations where turnout was generally low. To say to you that turnout was poor will not be correct. We are just indicating, and I think it's important to say to those voters who may be planning to come to the voting stations to do so before we close today. But remember, these voters can still do so tomorrow. We are satisfied with the work we had set out to do for special voting at voting stations yesterday. There was a question about, has this process helped to deal with issues? Yes, it has. It has also identified some of the areas which require our attention, and that's why we are providing that attention as we need it. I think, in an election such as this, everything that we need to clarify with voters, we will take advantage of the media and clarify it. but will also communicate so that voters clearly understand what preparations are in place for them to do the work that they need to do, or to come and cast the vote as they would. In instances where our processes needed fine-tuning, we are satisfied that we have done so, and we are prepared for tomorrow. And we look forward to elections taking place as we should. Thank you very much.
On that note, as CEO, let me perhaps inform members of the media that at 6 o'clock we'll have a press briefing on readiness for tomorrow, as all the voting stations will be opening. Let me thank members of the Commission as well as the Chief Electoral Officer for hosting this press briefing. They'll be coming back to us in a few hours just to assist us to prepare for tomorrow. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.